Hi guys, I find it ironic that Tory boy Fraser Nelson, who has a huge problem with asylum seekers and economic migrants coming to Britain, is more than happy to see Iran bombed because, well, they might have a nuke there. So thankfully there was an actual adult and voice of reason in the room during the Politics live show, in that of Stephen Flynn from the SNP, who challenged the Telegraph journalist on the whole issue of weapons of mass destruction. Have a listen to this.
We haven't seen any evidence, Fraser, unless you've got a crystal ball that I'm not aware of Iran having nuclear capacity in the way that you're portraying. And we've had these conversations with the Middle East before in respect of other nations and their supposed presence of nuclear weapons on their territory, and look what that caused. So what we need to do is make sure that we have a holistic, full understanding of what's happening. I actually think...
Do you think they're not making a nuclear bomb then?
No, I didn't say that.
He didn't say that. He said we don't have evidence that they're developing such a weapon. Saying we don't have evidence is not the same as saying there is no bomb. We don't have evidence that there is a bomb. So we have to take a position of wait and see. We have to take a position of you have to present evidence that there is a bomb before we believe that there is a bomb. We don't just go on, well, if you believe there's a bomb, then we'll go along with that. No, you actually have to present evidence of something before people should believe it. What you're doing is you're going on this assumption, Fraser Nelson here, we'll just assume that there is a bomb and that let's destroy the entire country and let's kill millions of people.
No, I did not say that. What I said was you've not got any evidence that tells us that they do have a nuclear bomb.
Right, so you doubt that they're trying to make one.
If there is that.
You doubt that they're making one. No, we don't have any evidence that they're making one. It's not about doubt. We don't know. It's a position of knowledge. Do we know if they're developing a bomb? We don't know. Do you know, Fraser Nelson? No, you don't. So shut the F up.
Evidence, then present it. Show it to me. Show me where I can see that.
Wouldn't it be a wee bit too late by the time they actually built one?
But we had these arguments before in relation to Iraq and weapons of mass destruction, did we not?
So in that case, you're quite chilled about it.
So I'm not chilled about it at all.
He's chilled about it. Who's chilled about it? You're chilled about going to war with a country where you have no evidence. No one's saying that they're not developing a bomb. What we're saying is you don't have evidence that they are. Until you have evidence, then we can consider the idea of going to war with Iran. But until you actually have evidence, then we should not be engaging in this conversation whatsoever, or this concept. Now, Fraser Nelson doesn't seem to have a problem with bombing Iran. Well, because they might have nukes. Or we don't have any evidence that they don't have them. Is that the case? Are you going to bomb every country in the world because, well, they could potentially have nukes in the future? It's ridiculous. These are exactly the same arguments that were being put forward by so-called journalists back in 2003.
Well, I don't want to see conflict in the Middle East, and for certain I don't want to see the loss of civilian life, which of course we've seen for very many months.
When it comes to taking out nuclear bomb facilities, that's something which you think is preemptive because you don't quite believe that they're really going to make a bomb.
But of course, Fraser...
This guy is supposed to be a journalist. Now, the ironic part, of course, is if Iran does get bombed, you're going to see millions potentially of refugees. And this is the same guy who's like, we don't want refugees coming to Britain. So you're supporting bombing a country which will result in millions of refugees fleeing it. And at the same time, no, we don't want any refugees coming to Britain. I support the country being destroyed, but I don't support the consequences of that country being destroyed.
Iran has been mooted to be making a nuclear bomb for many, many years now, decades.
And it's getting quite close. That's the whole point of this.
They're getting quite close. What evidence do you have that they're getting quite close? Because Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying this since 1993 or 1992. 1992 or 1993. A long time, over 30 years. Benjamin Netanyahu has saying Iran is this close, is hours away from a nuke. And now it's, well, we need to bomb this country because they're hours away from a nuke. We need to stop them from developing these weapons of mass destruction. And you have so-called journalists banging the drum for war.
So let's present that evidence and let's have a rounded argument in relation to that. But let's not rush into something when we can de-escalate and seek to make sure that the IEA is in there and the United States is able to get into...
See, the big problem here is that Donald Trump has pulled the rug from under the deal. Barack Obama signed a deal with Iran. Donald Trump, as soon as he got into office the last time, tore it up. So what was the incentive for Iran to go along with the deal? But if the US is not going to respect the deal, then why should we? Now, I'm not saying that Iran is not developing a nuclear weapon. But until we have proper evidence that they are, then you should be considering the idea of attacking them. If there is a justification for that even. But we're not even going in that direction whatsoever. We need to bomb this country. This is the far right position. But at the same time, it's from people who do not want to see asylum seekers or refugees coming to Britain. Will Fraser Nelson be on the front line? Of course he won't. He's going to cheer it on, it seems, but he does not want to see the consequences of that. He does not want Britain to suffer the consequences of supporting a war which will result in millions of refugees. That's if there is not a clear and stable regime change. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. And kudos to Stephen Flynn here for pushing back, because at least there was somebody on this panel who did.